Alright, so after walking around the shop and showing you guys what I got and what the place looks like a little bit, so you can get a little bit better feel about where you're buying from, hopefully. We'll talk a little bit about the shop. So I got some questions over on my MCB page about my choice for tools and stuff like that. So I made a little about the shop page. So the first question here is, what do you feel is the most over or underrated piece of machine shop equipment? And during the tour, I showed you the hand tapper. I'd have to say that's right up there. There's not very many. At where I work, we do not have one, and I see those guys struggling tapping things on the machine and on the manual machines and stuff like that, and it just gives them a hard time and slows them down, especially when they have to make a few of the same thing. So I think that's probably one of the most underrated things. It's really great once you have one. Once you have it, you won't go back, especially if you put the power drill adapter on the top, so that you can just speed through those little holes, and that's pretty great. Most overrated piece of shop equipment, it's hard to tell. If I had to pick one, it would probably be a drill press. I might get some flack for that, but I find that most of the time, if I need to drill a hole, it's just as easy to throw it in the mill and drill an accurate hole rather than try to fiddle with that drill press and get a hole that may not be exactly where I need it to be. Now, I know that I could get a newer drill press or a better drill press and it will probably work better, but like I said, it's so easy to just put things in the mill and drill them accurately that I can't justify it to myself to get a $5,000-$6,000 drill press, and then where would I put it? So next question is, given that you've had your mill for a while, you needed to either replace or expand, or had to stay in the same general size of machine, so no vertical machining centers or anything like that, would I get another Novacon or look at a Tormach? I have to say I would. The Novacon has been good to me for a learning machine. All the parts were easily sourceable and stuff like that, so that I could find replacements and everything. So it's been an okay machine to me. I haven't really used Novacon's customer service too much or anything like that, so I can't comment on that. I can't comment on the company too much. But that machine was a demo machine, a used demo machine that they brought around here and there. So there's a couple of I've had problems with it, but I can't say I'd buy another Novacon. I don't have any experience with their newer machines. Their newer machines might be way better. It looks like from the pictures they look way better, but pictures are pictures. It's hard to tell if the machine is better from pictures. Now I have a Novacon at work that we use for engraving ceramic things. I have a Tormach at work, a PCNC 770, so it's the same frame size basically as the Novacon, and I feel that that's way better. Comparing some of the movement measurements between my machine here and the machine at work, it's just better. So I would have to say I would look at those again. I would look at Tormachs. Now, if you wanted to go up a size, up to an even higher class machine, there are machines out there with a control on them called Centroid machines, and they run servo motors and a more industrial controller with servo feedback and BT30 spindle, and a tool changer and all kinds of stuff. And if you are looking to get into paintball stuff where you're going to be milling aluminum and plastic mostly, that might be a way to go, but they are much more expensive than either the Tormach or the Novacon. So if I had to do it again though, I will definitely be getting something that has a tool changer. That's one of the more important things, and has the ability to add a 4th axis. I use 4th axis stuff quite often, so 4 axis is definitely a must for me. So the next thing is, you mentioned your drill chuck being great before. What is it that you like about it? The chuck that I have is a Albright chuck. It's pretty much the standard size Albright chuck with an integral R8 shank. And the thing that I like about it is, basically the thing I like most about it is the fact that there's no tools to hold the various drills. You can just loosen it up by hand and then tighten it back up, put your new drill in there, and away you go. For years and years and years, I ran normal Jacobs chucks and keyed chucks, and I mean they're all right, but and I still have some that I use, but if you can afford an Albright chuck with a keyless Albright chuck, then go ahead and get one that's well worth your time and money, and never again will you accidentally turn on the spindle while the chuck key is, or the key is still in the drill, and whip it at somebody or anything. So it's better from a safety standpoint too. So in the videos, the next question is, in the videos it appears you do not re-zero the Z-axis when using drills. How do you maintain a consistent tool length with them? That is basically a function in Mach where you can set up a tool table and you use a reference tool, so usually it's tool number 1, and you can measure the distance to the next tool relative to the first tool, so that you can then use in the G code, whenever you use the correct offsets and G43 commands and such, you can write the program such that it will use those offsets that you put in beforehand and know where the end of that tool is. I could maybe do another video on that later, because it can be quite involved. I'm not going to do that, get too terribly involved with it right now. So the next question is, what's going to be the determining factors in what you choose for a CNC lathe? I've mentioned before in my posts on MCB that I want to get a CNC lathe so that I'm not standing in front of that manual lathe all day turning cranks. So what's going to be the determining factor on how I choose a CNC lathe? And Tormach and Novacon both have similar size lathes with similar price ranges. I've pretty much chosen already. I've gone all around the lathe universe trying to find a lathe that'll fit my needs correctly, and I started out wanting a Tormach, and then said, you know what, I'd rather have a more industrial lathe. I want servo motors and a controller, and I went all around the lathe world. I was looking at a Precision Matthews lathe. I was looking at GT27 lathes, which are gang tooling only. I looked at some, just everything. I even called and got quotes for Herco machines and such. But when it came down to it, the Tormach, with the addition of the automatic tool changer, the tool carousel, even though the rapids are slow and the offsets will have to be checked quite often just to make sure that the home switches are doing their job correctly, and the open loop steppers, it's still the better machine for what I want to do. Most of the other machines that once you get down into the price range that I was willing to afford were gang tool lathes, and gang tool lathes are really great if you want to make 1,000 of one part, but when you have to reconfigure the entire tooling block to making the next part, I'm sure it'll become very tedious, especially when I'm doing short runs of 10 of this part, 10 of the next part, so that I can make a kit. Like the pneumatic assist pump kits, I'm not going to run 500 front blocks at once. I'm going to run 5 and then go on to the next part and the next part. Try and do smaller batches so that I can catch any defects in the manufacturing or the material sooner. Because I wouldn't want to scrap 200 of these parts. I just can't afford to scrap that much. So after going through the entire process and all the different kind of lathes, I ended up back at the NovaCon, and I'm hoping to get that here sometime in the next couple of months. So when that comes in, I'm sure I'll do some reviews on that and do some learning videos and try to figure out how that all works. Next question: did I ever finish building my version of the MCB open source gun? No. The real hang-up was the handles, or the grip frames. So you can see that I've been working on a Cocker based pump frame for pump guns, and I'm sure that I've learned quite a bit about what kind of dimensions make an ergonomic shape, if that makes sense. So I'll be able to use that, and maybe I do want to try to produce a couple of those. That might even be we're talking in the future here. Don't hold me to this, but that might be the first gun that I produce, is the open source gun. Just because nobody else is making them right now. If you wanted an MCB open source gun, unless you have a machine shop like this, you can't make it. So last question was what he feels most over under. A double question. Excellent. I'll have to fire my secretary. So yeah, that's about it about the shop. If you have any other questions, you can post them in the comments down there, or I'll also have a link to my thread, my sub forum over on MCB, so you can post in the TJD Customs Podcast ? Thread any other questions that you might have and feel you might want answered. So I think that's going to be it today, guys, and hope to see you back here soon.